So yeah, we had a panel about interactive storytelling for virtual reality and how storytelling is going to be different for this new medium that is VR. Well, it really depends. There's a couple of different ways that people are approaching storytelling in VR. There's the more traditional, let's actually build sets and get actors and shoot 360 video that becomes immersive video. So you're sort of embedded in the story, but you can't, you can make basic interaction decisions like, okay, let me go to that point, and then it'll basically transport you to a different part of the scene. And then there's the stuff that we more specialize in. I work for Epic Games. We make a game engine. So the game engine primarily was made for interaction. So if you want to, pick up something, throw it, drive a car, whatever, you expect these things to happen in the virtual world made by a game engine. So then it's a whole different bunch of challenges. People, as soon as you give them a controller and allow them to be able to manipulate the world, they expect to be able to change things, and gravity will work, and if they knock something, it'll fall to the ground. So we put a lot of effort into making sure the engine is easy to set up sort of physical interactions. So, VR being so immersive, it's really important that the player or the audience member believes they're in a real space, and when they interact with characters, it's important that the characters are plausible. Obviously, we're not quite at a place in real-time gaming technology yet that a human is perfect, but we're getting closer and closer every year. So we actually just did a project with our friends at Ninja Theory, a UK games company, to actually produce a live digital human that actually looks quite, it's not perfect yet, but it's pretty convincing as a storytelling mechanism. Yeah, there's another show for the games industry, GDC, that we attend once a year. So for this year, we wanted to give people the idea that believable characters are something that you can do in the interactive world. So we actually had a project where they took an actress that they're working with that plays a part of one of their characters in their game, and we had her, in a motion capture, body motion capture suit with a face camera shooting her face, and we were able to, thanks to the technology of a couple of companies, a bunch of companies were involved, not just ourselves and Ninja Theory, but this company, 3Lateral, that build digital face rigs. That mimic the motions and subtleties of a human face. We also had a company called Cubic Motion that can take video of an actress or an actor and use that to drive a synthetic version either of themselves or of another character. So we basically did a live demonstration where this actress was performing a piece in a motion capture suit but driving a digital rendition of herself as she would show up in the game. And we did that live. And the main reason to do it was it was cool, and it shows that this is possible in a game engine in the year 2016, but also for anybody who's experimenting with VR, VR doesn't have to be about pre-canned, performances. You could actually, take an actress or a singer, suit them up and have them beam their performance into a shared experience where thousands of people at home, or maybe even millions one day, have a VR experience where they can see that performance happening right in front of them. Honestly, it's getting closer. Every year, the technology gets better. What we deployed for that particular piece was the actual hardware was just a regular gaming PC with a high-end NVIDIA. A Titan X was the graphics card. So it's pretty, hardcore gamers have that at home. It's the capture camera was more sophisticated than a regular, web camera, and it was mounted on one of them fancy Avatar helmets. I don't know if you've heard of Glandarian Technoprops. They make the head cameras or they make the head rigs for Avatar. So we use the same setup as they actually came from Glen. But there's no reason that kind of Avatar-driven performance over time, especially you'll see at the show now. There's a lot of depth measuring cameras that don't just shoot RGB; they also shoot depth. That these things will help digitize performances and be able to beam them into VR or interactive experiences. I don't honestly. The way that them depth sensing cameras are evolving, it's going to be possible that you won't need motion capture suits to be able to track your body. I don't know if you remember Microsoft's Kinect system from the Xbox 360, and then they did an upgraded one for Xbox One. They do an okay job of tracking your body, so that without a motion capture suit, that stuff's just going to get better and better as time goes by.
So, and the accuracy you think could be there?
I think it'll be there, yeah. It's, there's some pretty impressive stuff that's happening. I think cameras like we see in front of us right now, it's very much a 2D device, yeah? Eventually they're going to be three-dimensional cameras, you know. Light field photography is about to emerge. I think you'll probably hear something, hopefully in the next few days about that. It'll become, you know, we were actually talking about students were asking about, you know, how do they get into VR and, you know, the future of you know, cinematography and virtual content creation. And we're like, well, actually, let's think about 3D, because cameras in the future are going to be 3D cameras. They're not going to be regular, just 2D cameras. They're going to capture depth and pixel data at the same time. There's a lot of technology that went into doing what they're doing. They're pioneering. You know, 10 years from now, I'm sure it'll be very different. It's amazing technology. Obviously, it has, you know, for anybody here at a broadcast show, the amount of data that camera can generate is significant, yeah? But, you know, every year Moore's law clicks along, and, you know, if you remember when George Lucas sort of pioneered, you know, digital cinematography for the Star Wars movies, it was considered to be crazy to do that at the time. And nowadays, we don't even think, you know, our iPhones can do 4K videography at decent frame rates as well. So things move quickly. Well, I think one of the great things is, you know, not for a long time has there been a new medium invented, as well as all these tools and these technologies to support the medium. Not since the birth of film have we seen something so exciting. You know, I was involved. I used to work in the film business up until a few years ago. I was there at the beginning of, you know, digital effects for movies. I worked on the Matrix movies and did some awesome stuff when I was working with my friends at Industrial Light and Magic. The early 90s, when that stuff was all invented, was an amazing time. But the actual art form wasn't invented at that point. Film had been around for, you know, 90 years, 80, 90 years at that point. Now with VR, it's this brand new art form and brand new technology all together. So what is the killer app? Honestly, it could be anything. And if, you know, when you experience a decent quality, you know, early access VR experience today, they're actually pretty mesmerizing. Just to be able to walk around a room and pick things up and move them, even though you'd think it'd be really lame and boring, it's actually very exciting. So even the most basic mechanisms can be something that bring audiences back to want more and more and more. You know, last year we did a collaboration with Weta Digital to bring Smaug, the big massive dragon from the Hobbit series, into a VR experience. And the reactions that we would get were crazy. You know, he's just, you know, the fact that you actually believe that you've got a dragon the size of a 747 circling around you is enough for most people to make them want more and more and more. So, yeah, who knows? And the other nice thing is, you know, any students out there that are just graduating that want to make an impact on the entertainment industry, VR is a place that you don't really need a ton of residual knowledge to be able to actually pioneer. And in fact, actually, the less burdened you are with your experiences of the past, actually sometimes it's better. We sit down, when we did Bullet Train, there's a bunch of mechanisms in Bullet Train that we argued, you know, are you going to be able to teleport around the room so that you don't, you know, find yourself, you know, we were thinking about moving people on conveyor belts at first, and then Nick, the designer on the game, was like, let's try this teleporting thing, and we're all like, that's not going to work, no way is that going to work, you're going to throw up as soon as you get beamed across the room. Oh, totally works. So yeah, it's just, honestly, it's such a great time to be getting into the creative arts. And if you're familiar with technology, it's an amazing time. You know, I gotta say, I think that it's great. You know, even how we tell a story today is going to be very different tomorrow in virtual reality. There are some things that transition over, but not a ton of things just work. You know, in movies, we use this concept of nonlinear time to help keep the pace going, yeah? You know, we light in specific ways to make sure you understand. We use depth of field. We do all these things that are you know, audiences have learned over the 100 years of the evolution of cinema to understand, but actually in reality, they don't happen. The real world isn't like that. Virtual reality happens more like the real world, but it can, you know, transport you to fantasy locations, and, you know, if you want to go to space, you can go to space in a VR experience. Most of us aren't probably going to be able to do that. But traditional storytelling mechanisms, not a lot of them don't really work. For actors, the concept of the take, where, you know, when you watch a movie and you see an actor from shot to shot to shot, that is usually nothing to do with linear time. It's like take after take after take. They could be showing up in the cut and out of order of what they actually happened in the real world. Can't do that in VR. There's not, the most you can do is, maybe blank, and you give people the ability to blink, and then you can either transport them or you can change time, but you can't do that every 3 seconds like we do in normal movies. So it actually means the acting performance is, if you've got a physical actor acting in a VR experience, they better nail it and nail it all the way through. It's much more like theater than traditional filmmaking. I think connecting to you don't have to have the greatest experience in the world to be able to make something. It's all about experimentation, iteration. Traditionally, making a film has been so well defined over the 100 years that we've been doing it that you can have a wonderful auteur director go, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's just going to come together. VR isn't like that. You have to experiment. Iteration is your friend. So make sure that any project that you're doing, if you're going to try and make a VR experience, make sure you give yourself enough time to experiment. And what you thought would work at the beginning won't necessarily be the thing that you end up shipping at the end. It's great. It's awesome. It's like, yeah, the best thing. Even since the beginning of my career, I love it. I love the fact that real-time computer graphics is transforming the way that people think about how they're entertained and how they interact with characters and how you can make the world look amazing. It's great.